The combat sports world has been enthralled with the rumors of a possible boxing bout between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, which has caused arguments, conjecture, and fan division. It all began when YouTuber-turned-boxer Jake Paul declared with confidence that he could beat two-time unified heavyweight champion Joshua. Paul didn't mince words when he declared that Joshua is stiff, has no chin, no skills, and would beat his ass in the ring. Paul even included a light-hearted remark to give a twist. "Anthony, I love you, we're friends, but I know I can take you." With a message, "Look who called 2026 Anthony Joshua," and a photo of Joshua on a phone call, this bold call-out shocked the boxing community and social media. Shortly thereafter, Anthony Joshua had his own nuanced response. On Instagram, he posted a screenshot of a call he had with Paul, suggesting that they had actually spoken. Joshua's response to his promoter Eddie Hearn was straightforward: "Listen, I'd fight him." Hearn informed the media of this, stressing that Joshua isn't afraid to take on a fight. Hearn added, "AJ would fight anyone, anytime," remembering a morning conversation in which Joshua casually dismissed the notion with a "why not?" Joshua appears to be more willing to enter the ring with anyone who has the courage to do so than he is to take Paul seriously as a threat. Fans and analysts, however, are divided by the prospect of this battle. On the one hand, we have Jake Paul, a relatively new professional boxer whose record is mostly against non-traditional boxers, including an aged Mike Tyson, other YouTubers, and retired MMA fighters. Anthony Joshua, a seasoned heavyweight with a record that includes world titles and triumphs over elite opponents, is on the opposite side. There is a noticeable disparity in physicality, competence, and experience. Many have called Paul insane because of his audacious statements, and others have even pointed to his defeat by actual pro boxer Tommy Fury as evidence that he isn't prepared for the elite level he is aiming for. Anthony Joshua, according to Jake Paul, who lost to Tommy Fury, lacks skill and a chin. A common attitude on the internet was echoed by a Twitter user who asked, "What is this guy talking about?" Paul's desire, however, cannot be disregarded. Targeting well-known athletes, including as Canelo Alvarez, Gervonta Tank Davis, and now Joshua, he has established a reputation for upending the sport. His co-promoter at Most Valuable Promotions, Amanda Serrano, defended him by claiming, "They call him a fraud for wanting easy fights, then he asks for the toughest fights ever, and they say he's nuts." She is correct about the trend. It was said that Paul was on the verge of getting into a fight with Canelo before it went through, and if Tank Davis had defeated Lamont Roach handily, there would have been rumors that a fight with Davis was imminent. After the altercation, Davis himself added gasoline to the fire by yelling at Paul in a news conference, "Jake Paul, next question." It's debatable if these bouts were ever really realistic, but Paul has a talent for creating excitement. A possible Joshua-Paul fight has elicited a range of responses from the boxing community, including laughter, skepticism, and downright indignation. Even for Paul's style of spectacle-driven boxing, many consider it a farce and a step too far. One pundit stated, "This fight should never happen, it's an absolute disgrace to the sport," drawing comparisons to other crossover fights such as Tyson Fury's showcase with Francis Ngannou or Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. They used Joshua's vicious knockout of Ngannou in his final bout with a non-boxer as proof of what might happen to Paul. Tyron Woodley had Jake Paul on skates, panicking for his life, noticed another onlooker. Consider what Joshua may do. It would be fortunate for Paul to survive. Nevertheless, the concept has an irresistible charm. No matter what you think of Paul's opponents, a lot of people watch his battles. According to reports, his fight with 58-year-old icon Mike Tyson, who is far past his peak, brought in millions of dollars and trended globally on Netflix. "Jake creates massive events," Hearn said, pointing to the potential for profit. "It'd be a straightforward night's work for AJ, but the viewership would be unbelievable." The fight might be more about taking advantage of Paul's show-selling skills than it is about establishing a point for Joshua, who is no stranger to large payouts himself. Joshua said Hearn, "Tell everyone I'll fight anyone, anytime, it's not a problem for me," which is a confident yet practical statement. However, detractors contend that Paul's approach depends on picking opponents at random. Older combatants, lesser-known MMA celebrities, or legendary fighters enticed out of retirement for financial gain. He targets legendary fighters, talks trash, and secures lucrative paydays, said Anthony Smith, an MMA fighter. He then shits on all of us after knocking them out on pay-per-view. Smith's anger is similar to that of many purists who believe Paul disregards the history of boxing. This narrative was further fostered by his decision victory over Tyson and his triumph against 47-year-old UFC legend Anderson Silva. Smith went on to say, "If Jake Paul beats these guys, we should boycott him until he fights someone on his level," echoing the ideas of many who are sick of seeing Paul munch up faded stars. Paul considers himself to be a revolutionary. He has referred to himself as the only real fighter in boxing, adding vigor and enthusiasm to a sport that he feels is enmeshed in politics and avarice. He blasted on his podcast, saying, "Everyone is focused on money and excuses instead of making the biggest fights happen. Anthony Joshua, let's make history, get in the ring and fight like men." He has also disparaged prominent figures in the industry, such as Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, saying they should put aside their bullshit and schedule the fight. It's a daring move, but it neatly avoids his own responsibility to choose games that prioritize hype above fair play. It's interesting to note that Joshua has viewed Paul's influence more objectively. He has commended Paul's services to boxing while also recognizing his lack of mature experience in the sport. Joshua remarked, "He's good for boxing, zero amateur experience, throwing himself in the deep end, bringing financial success and big paydays." Traditional boxing has had trouble reaching a younger audience, which he attributes to Paul and the YouTube boxing movement. "They're showing there's potential in boxing regardless of championships," Joshua said. "It's changing the landscape for the better." Joshua does not consider Paul seriously as a danger, but it is an unusual sign of respect from a veteran to a provocateur. At least in the past, Paul hasn't held back when expressing his adoration for Joshua. He has praised his abilities and achievements, calling him one of his favorite fighters. Because of this, his recent trash talk, a change from fanboy to enemy that seems purposeful to elicit a reaction, is all the more startling. And it was successful. The social media interaction, Joshua's Instagram post, Paul's callout, has followers wondering if this is indeed possible. Some consider Paul's use of 2026 as a deadline to be a cop-out. Hearn chuckled, "That's like me saying I'll surf in the 2028 Olympics. If you're serious, do it in 2025. There are practical concerns about the fight's viability. Joshua, a 6 feet 6 inches heavyweight who has recently weighed between 240 and 250 pounds, would have a significant size advantage over Paul, who has fought at a weight of about 185 to 200 pounds. Putting differences in weight class aside, the skill discrepancy is glaring. Joshua's record includes a spectacular knockout of Ngannou along with victories over Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin, and Vladimir Klitschko. Paul's greatest defeat was a decision over Tyson, a bout that many people wrote off as a glorified practice match. One expert stated, "It was tip and tap, don't hit me, I won't hit you." Commercially fantastic, but not a real boxing match. Fans are drawn to the spectacle rather than the competition. Some hope Joshua will decimate Paul, bringing the brazen newcomer to his knees. One admirer declared, "I'm all for it just to see him get knocked out. 5 seconds, that's all it'd take." Others view it as an opportunity for Paul to disprove his skeptics, but that seems unlikely. Another sneered, "He lost to Tommy Fury and thinks he can compete with AJ? Laughable." Purists generally agree that Joshua is too sophisticated and considerate of boxing's customs to perform for this circus. However, his "I'll fight anyone" mentality leaves the door open. Paul's goals are not limited to Joshua. He has criticized Conor McGregor, saying that his boxing prowess is surpassing the MMA star's deteriorating talents. "He's getting older, I'm getting better," Paul boasted of his height advantage. Although it's another impossible task, it fits with his strategy of pursuing well-known brands. Paul's strategy is straightforward. Use his platform to stir things up and make money, regardless of whether it's McGregor, Joshua, or Davis. Whether you like him or not, he has made boxing his own playground, and everyone is watching. What does this leave us with, then? Stranger things have happened, but a Joshua-Paul battle in 2026 seems more like a publicity ploy than a real idea. Canelo and Davis were closer than doubters would like to acknowledge. demonstrating Paul's ability to force unusual pairings to happen. For the time being, Joshua seemed happy to let the rumors circulate, confident in his legacy and receptive to whatever happens. The fans, on the other hand, are torn between hating the dilution of a sport they love and yearning for the mayhem. There is little doubt that Jake Paul's delusion, or genius, has everyone talking, and it may be his greatest triumph to yet.